What does God look like? What do you see?
We're solar-powered biological AI.
Wait, what?
These ancient adversarial entities, I think it's the very same ones that rebelled against God and were cast out.
They were sent here to guide us in antiquity, and they took advantage of that and just masqueraded as gods. What's going on, everybody? And welcome back. I know I was just here about 15 minutes ago with Subliminal Messenger. We were doing an esoteric book review. Should have been private on Patreon only, but we'll talk about that later. Welcome back to the Greypilled Podcast. I am Jules, your host here with my co-host, Adrian West. So welcome back to Elohim Etymology, guys. These have been picking up a lot more lately, which makes me happy because this is like, what I first started talking about on Greypilled was these fallen entities and their many names, who they were worshipped as over time. Adrian, what's going on, brother?
Always a pleasure to be here. Feeling good, feeling groovy. Happy Saturday. What's up, Grey Pill people and Elohim etymology experts?
Yeah, man. The Elohim etymologists are in the house. Let's see. I'm going to do this and see how this looks if we turn the comments on the stage. Now, it may, we'll see. We'll see how it works. If it starts to cover up Adrian, we're going to turn it off. We are back with episode 13 of Elohim Etymology, which was originally called Pantheon Project, actually. Ninurta.
Yes.
Ninurta. This, like I said before we went live, this is the only deity in this Sumerian pantheon who is still kind of a mystery to me. As far as who else he was known as, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am familiar with the symbolism being that of the eagle, and we have some pictures that we'll pull up. I'll go ahead and do that. But like, who is Ninurta? First off, do you want to give kind of a little brief summary for me, or?
Absolutely. Ninurta is the oldest son of the Anunnaki god Enlil, who was the chief commander of Earth, the Lord of the skies. And to rewind a little bit, we're talking about an ancient power structure on Earth before the creation of Adam and Eve, where two stepbrothers, Enlil and Enki, are perpetually wrestling for power and dominion over various regions on planet Earth, with some insight and strategic advice by their father Anu, who primarily stays off-world. But the birth of Ninurta happens on Nibiru, so this is long before Adam and Eve and kind of the Earth wars or Earth conflicts in the gold mines. We're in the 500,000 year ago range, if not more.
Okay, this is before the fall of the Ajiji, the worker Anunnaki, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Before the descent from Mars.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I do know this is another offspring of the sister wife kind of connection that you see throughout these ancient cultures, right?
Yeah, I should have mentioned the mother is Ninma, Enlil and Enki's half sister. So
Right. So like with Osiris and Isis, and then you have like Zeus and Hera, and then you have Enlil and Ninma, Enki and Ninma. So
right. So yeah, if we count, I made a master timeline and I sent you the skeleton version, but if we count Shar 0 as 445,000 BC, which is when Alelu is announced king of the earth, then I believe Ninurta was born about one Shar before that. So roughly 448,000 BC, off-world on the planet Nibiru, which orbits Earth approximately every 3,600 years. So he was born into a he was born into a DNA body that had a long lifespan due to their quality of blood or their genetic code.
Right. And I pulled up I guess an image. Is this like a stele or a what's it called? Cuneiform carving of some sort.
Yeah.
Of Ninurta. And he's jacked. Of course.
Jacked.
He's
jacked one of them.
Fuck, man. And this really I need to work out more. If this guy's looking like this.
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, but he has everything. He has the beard. His wings, obviously, robes, and I don't know what's in his hand right there. And to be quite honest with you, it seems like he has things attached to him as well. Like, look at his leg.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just like, I don't know. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. That is in his hand right there. Or this up here. Is that acacia or something? Can't zoom in. Or I can't there. Oh man. It just gets so much for a new MacBook.
Oh. So here we go. You ready for this?
What?
The object could possibly be the Sharur, Sharur, which allegedly was his most famous weapon, described in the Sumerian text as a talking mace or flying weapon. Some scholars interpret it as a symbolic warhammer, staff, and it was said to help advise Ninurta in battle and
this
fly
thing
ahead.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, we're talking about the first one in his left hand.
Okay.
And alternative interpretations: ceremonial staff, rod of power, or a measuring tool, or a minute. Here's another thing, and we'll probably get into this, but a miniaturized thunderbolt or energy device. Think about what Thoth had. If we buy into the Emerald Tablets, right? When Thoth descends on the land of Kim and is approached by throngs of stressed out, potentially dangerous people, he stops them in their tracks with a ray of vibration. So it could be all of the above, right? Like an iPad weapon all rolled up into a little staff. So it can tell you directions, can tell you information. It could blind your enemies. The sky's the limit.
Quite literally. Let's see. Yeah, I think the comments will be good being pulled up on screen. I didn't know how they would look. What's up, Subliminal? Royal Deluxe. Good to see you back. So yeah. Okay, so he's born off-world. The son of Enlil, who we've talked about, and we related to El, Saturn, Cronus. He's his firstborn, right?
Correct.
Okay. Let's see.
So by By virtue of being the firstborn with a half sister, he is in line to succeed Enlil for power whenever Enlil's astrological time was up. It would have gone Enlil, Marduk, Ninurta, alternating. But there are some complications with the Marduk story, as we have rehashed many times. And for that reason, Ninurta seemed to have more favor overall and more success with ruling regions and displaying dominance without there weren't any pyramid wars where everyone was after Ninurta.
He was
even though
usually the one pursuing, right?
Yes, like the great enforcer, the great executor, the great warrior to squash shit.
In the Sumerian myths, when he and I believe Nergal destroyed a city, right?
They destroyed a few cities.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. But he had a name to him.
Oh, it might have been Era the Destroyer.
Was his era, or was that Nergal and he had another one?
Stand by.
Yeah, I figured you would have that more readily available. Another name for him that y'all, if you've read the Epic of Gilgamesh, guys, is Ningirsu. That's another name for him as well. But this guy, like I said, he's been the most difficult to trace throughout the pantheons and define his archetype exactly, because he is so similar to Marduk in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not. They weren't the same deity. Obviously, they were nemesis, right?
Sorry, Nergal and Ninurta.
No, Ninurta and Marduk.
Big time.
Yeah,
and yeah, you were right. Era the Destroyer is Nergal, and he is believed to have wiped out Sodom and Gomorrah and the 5 major cities, where Ninurta bombed the Sinai spaceport.
and what was Ninurta's name?
I'm not seeing any special nicknames immediately for this period, but let me do some more recon. He was called Isham. Isham means fiery one or blazing arm. Sharur was his weapon, which also meant smasher of enemies.
That's pretty cool, dude.
He was known as the Avenger.
Yeah, so this guy, like I said, I don't really know a lot of his origin story, like where he spent his like where he's first seen, right? In these ancient stories. But as well as like his wife, his kids, I mean, besides Ningirsu, what other names did this guy have?
Yeah,
I know you
so
just
if we go to the Egyptian culture, he was most likely associated with Montu, Montu.
okay. We talked about Montu, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. You're right. I'm gonna pull up a picture. I pulled this up. He's got a pine cone and bag, right? Just like Marduk, just like Enki. I don't know what this is poking out of his robe. I'm now convinced it is his phallus. He has huge feet. This guy's jacked. But I'm convinced. I mean, bro, what is that?
In his hand?
No, come right there.
Oh, man. It's just a wardrobe, of course.
It could be anything, right? But
Yeah.
And so we see he has a bird head, and people say that like all the Anunnaki had bird heads, or were some avian hybrid. That's not the case. But you really only see it on this side of the pantheon, right?
Yeah, and you also see it more in Egyptian art than any other culture as well. But Thoth is on the other side, on the Enki side, and he's depicted with the bird head. But
Right. A whole new meaning, and well, so is Marduk as Ra, right? And when you look at Montu, and we'll share this. I mean, dude. So we've seen the staff before. He has the Ankh. Similar to Horus, but not exactly, right?
right,
But look at his head again. That's a serpent. That's definitely a serpent on his head, dude. Don't know what his head dress
Cobra,
is
right?
called. Huh?
Probably a cobra, right?
It would seem so. Yeah. Let's see. Montu was a powerful warrior, believed to bring victory in battle. Sometimes with a double plume crown and sun disk, and occasionally as a bull, symbolizing his strength and ferocity. A falcon.
Yep.
That's what I'm looking for.
Falcon head with the solar disc and two plumes, often wielding a curved sword or spear.
Egyptian. Does it represent the upper and lower parts of Egypt?
It says his main cult center was in Thebes.
Okay.
Or originated in the Old Kingdom, but
they just signify strength and might. Okay, so it's just, I thought that there was a particular meaning to the two plumes, but
it's fascinating because if we're talking about the Old Kingdom, that's 2600 BC when he popped on the scene at around 500,000 BC. So it's if we subscribe to this ancient origin Nibiru angle, then these lifespans are completely unfathomable. And he lived many lives and generations before being Montu. He's primarily Ninurta, and Montu is just his disguise for a couple thousand years.
Yeah, as he fights Marduk, right?
Yeah.
Identify with Ningersu, Pablasag. I've never heard that name. And the biblical Nimrod. Oh.
Yeah. I've heard of the Nimrod angle. Because we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because Sodom and Gomorrah is the very end of the story, and we're still on his birth and training on Nibiru.
So what does that entail? Can you that's what I was asking you earlier, if you could describe a little bit more like his early days, maybe?
Yeah, so once the humans arrive on Earth, there's some issues with Alelu, upset about the fact that Anu has essentially given power to Enlil, Enki, etc. And there's a relative of Alelu named Kumarbi. And Kumarbi starts one of the first revolts on Earth. So this is before the miners' revolt down in Africa. This is closer to the Fertile Crescent. And it's the first time that the tablets of destinies were stolen. So jumping forward in the timeline, there's instances where Inanna steals the MEs from Enki, or someone steals the tablets of destinies and then they have the power. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this Kumarbi thing is related to the Anzu story, and there's a group, a huddle put together. It's like essentially the top pantheon between Enki, Enlil, and their families, and they decide that Ninurta should be the one to squash Kumarbi. He's the most badass. He's a trained fighter pilot. This is, let's see. This is probably...
You're right. It is Ishun.
Ishun. Okay.
You were right. Please continue, Adrian. I'm
Bro,
sorry to interrupt you.
we're all good, man. And so, yeah, Kumarbi was like the personification of the devil, kind of referred to as the evil zoo. And yeah, Ninurta is assigned to smoke him out. And it is a violent, not a war, but a battle. Ninurta is in his fighter craft. Essentially, whether it's a saucer or a two-winged vessel, it's a flying fighter craft. So, depending on how long you want to talk about the details of that, Ninurta is defeated and banished. And I'm sorry. I think I said Ninurta was defeated. Kumarbi is defeated. He's arraigned, tried before a 7-man court martial, and he's sent away. I think it's Mars.
That would make sense because of Enlil and Anzu's fate being sent to Mars as well.
Yeah.
So was Mars just like a graveyard for Anunnaki?
I think so. And like this Kumarbi saga is kind of glossed over. People don't really think about it. Even I've forgotten key details, but because you think about the battle on the Biru and Enlil escaping to Earth, and then the mission is gold, and then you think about the revolts with the workers, and then it's Adam and Eve times. So like Kumarbi almost gets overlooked at the beginning. But to answer your question, yes, it seems like Mars had an atmosphere that could sustain, whether it's without a space helmet or with a space helmet, it could sustain life and civilization. So even in modern day culture podcasts, like I'm watching one yesterday where they're talking about the face on Mars actively and how it was likely representative of an actual person back in the day, or Mars had intelligent civilization, and maybe their atmosphere was nuked and it's not breathable now, or maybe it was always not breathable and you just had to wear a special suit to live and work on Mars.
Yeah. But yeah, Zu, also known as Imdugud or Anzu, is a divine bird who steals a tablet of destinies. And so, yeah, it's a bird deity. So here we go back with the bird heads. Yeah.
I think I confused myself by saying Kumarbi. These gods have lots of names, but originally it's Anzu, the pilot, he had another name as Kumarbi or the evil Zu, but it's Anzu, who's in the Lost Book of Enki as a key figure.
And I know, we only have about another 25 minutes. So I want to talk about as much as we can. Dude, I hate that I spent so much time looking for that name. I thought it was some other name.
Thinking about Indra. Indra is his name in the Vedic text in India.
Really?
Yeah.
That may be the name I was thinking of. This is Zu right here. So that's pretty gnarly.
Holy smokes.
Right?
The evil Zu.
Yeah. Notice how he's a composite creature.
Man, they did Anzu bad, bro. They made Anzu a beast, bro.
Bro, that's how he's remembered, right?
Yeah.
That's how he's remembered over time. And so then it's like, does he become that?
He's like a demon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor guy.
Well, he shouldn't have stolen the tablets of destinies, man. You gotta be smart out here.
Yeah, you fuck around and find out. Yeah, that's Anzu. He may even get his own episode, guys. So
Let's talk about his the meaning of his name for a second. And
Ninurta.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I have two different interpretations. It seems like nine or Ni or Nin is agreed to be the Lord, but one interpretation has Urta, which sounds like earth, meaning earth or meaning digging. So Lord of the earth or Lord of the digging. And then another interpretation has Urta originating from Uru Ata, which essentially means to shred, tear, kill. So it's like nine Nuruata was like the lord of the killing, so to speak. So there's some subjectivity in there. We know he was a lord. We know he was the firstborn of the great Sky King. And it's just, was he the lord of the earth or the lord of the killing? We'll leave that up for the audience.
Right. Well, you know, him and Marduk did have this feud going. Was he supposed to have kingship before Marduk?
Fantastic question. So what I haven't found is exactly who was born first. Now, I want to say that, part of me thinks that Marduk was actually born like a Shar earlier on Orion.
Yeah.
But the way of the laws of succession, it should have been Enlil and then Enki's oldest and then Enlil's oldest. So it should have gone Enlil, Marduk, Ninurta in that order.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to write a couple of these down.
There's also some potential parts of the Bible where the Yahweh being referred to is actually Ninurta.
Really?
So, yeah. So for the most part, Yahweh was Jehovah or El or Enlil, but it was also a title, kind of like Enlil was a title. So in Isaiah 13:4, when it says Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, a warring army commands, this is quite possibly Ninurta because he's commanding the warring army.
Yeah, he was the god of war,
Isaiah 42:13, Yahweh goes forth like a warrior, like a hero, he whips up his rage. It's interesting, those are both Isaiah. I wonder if the author of Isaiah was more tapped into the region that Ninurta was controlling.
Dude, no one thinks about these things.
Exodus 15, the Lord is a warrior, Yahweh is his name. It's a lifelong endeavor to really unpack it all, right? But you can find samples everywhere.
So, when does Ninurta come to Earth then?
It has
when
to
do we
be.
first see him?
It is. It's within a shar or two of Alelu and Enki. So it's like Alelu first as the refugee, Enki second as the pursuing group with the 50 heroes of, builders and miners. Then it has to be but then there's a wave of medics. So we could maybe do some research and find out exactly which wave, but it's after Enki and before the Anzu revolt. So still in the 500,000 year ago range.
Right.
I think it's tablet 5 in the Lost Book of Enki, where Ninma is just like, "Hey, news check. We're gonna have a son." And
Right. And being the son of Ninma and Enlil, he kind of has more of like a divine spark to him, right? As far as DNA wise. And maybe that had something to do with like, his succession as well. Definitely. Same with Marduk. Well, Marduk was the son of Damkina, but when you look at her, Enlil's wife was a house servant, right?
Ninma.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
Ninlil.
yeah,
Yeah,
Sud.
Sud.
Yeah,
Right. Such a bland name. And then Enki's wife, Damkina, was a daughter of a king, right?
yeah. Leilu's daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Marduk would have more like a hierarchy over Ninurta when you think of if you think of in terms of like bloodline. Because we do know that Ninma and Enki also had a son that was Thoth, right? Ningasita.
Yeah.
And we talked about that in those episodes. So I'm just trying to kind of get a grip on who we're talking about, and I mean, where I get him kind of confused is when you get into the later pantheons of Greek and Roman, but I mean, you told me that we also see Ninurta later on in North America.
We do.
Yeah. So, and there you go. When you look at the United States, the eagle, right? Being our emblem, it just kind of goes to show maybe who had authority over this part of the world.
Yeah. Hey, I want to correct my timeline a little bit. I think I was close to his birth time, but it sounds like he may not have come from Nibiru to Earth until around the 6th or 7th Shar, so like between 420 to 400,000 BC, which means his battle with Anzu would have been approximately between Shars 7, 8, 9. So it's getting closer. It's getting farther away from the landing of Alelu and closer to Adam and Eve, where he's kicking ass.
That makes more sense. And like I said, I kind of got a little ahead of myself earlier, but that's like where I understood him the most was from that those stories. Because like I said,
I mean, I think his influence was probably global, and it definitely trickled into the Greek, Roman, Indian cultures, and etc.
And we'll get into that. But I did want to, let's see. Let me pull this up. You talked about, I couldn't help but notice the colors on the Egyptian representation of Montu, or Montu as Ninurta. Ninurta as Montu. We talked about that. I think when we looked at, I mean, maybe it's just whoever remade the photo colored it like that, but who knows? Maybe those were the original colors. Out of red, black, green, all alchemical colors, yellow or gold. We touched on that as well. On the last episode, I think. It's not too clear, but it is another depiction of Ninurta, I believe, right?
I've seen that. Yeah.
And look, I mean, you see, the beard and all that. There we go. I mean, is that his winged fighting ship?
That's my best guess for that type of art, that's what it's depicting, his flying craft.
This guy looks just like Marduk. You know, they all look alike. Well, all except for a couple of them.
Yeah,
But
that could,
some depictions they don't have beards, like in the Phoenician and Canaanite statues. They may have like a smaller beard.
right. Like there's no, Montu doesn't have a beard. Indra, the depictions of Indra in India does not have a beard. But then the Greek and Roman equivalents do, because that figure is very famous and popular.
So who would the Greek and Roman equivalents of Ninurta be?
We're talking about none other than Heracles in Greece and Hercules in Rome.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have talked about Ishkur being related closely to Zeus. Why would it say that Ninurta, if Ninurta being Heracles, why would it say that he would be a son of Zeus? I mean, would that just, I mean, because they're brothers, obviously.
Yeah.
So was Heracles really Zeus's brother, or was Zeus just known as like the All Father, you know, the Sky Daddy?
Yeah, I think the Sky Daddy angle is more plausible, and we're also dealing with the difference of, you know, hundreds of thousands of years where stories and families can kind of get stretched and manipulated, if not unintentionally misconstrued.
Right. Kind of like a game of telephone.
Yeah. So when it comes down to, when we're going from Sumerian, Babylonian, hundreds of thousands of years ago, or let's call Sumerian, original Anunnaki, Fertile Crescent, hundreds of thousands of years ago, to more contemporary pantheons like Greece and Rome, I focus more on the individual traits, the meanings of names and their accomplishments, versus their exact relation to a mom, dad, sister, brother.
That's how I started kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
A little more. Because you will contradict yourself.
Right. It's, we got to stop saying complex. Complex doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of this stuff. It's
it's not easy to trace these deities, dude. And like I've said, we have to work on new charts. I have to start my own new little pantheon chart myself, and we can kind of compare and contrast. Maybe we will, you know, make part 2 a little bit longer. Maybe we'll get into a lot more. We were just kind of outlining who Ninurta was. We didn't really get into any stories. We touched on the Sodom and Gomorrah thing, which we'll get into more on a later episode. But this was a good little start to unpacking who this guy really was. Is there anything else that you want to add before we get out of here in a minute? We got about another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get to it more. Judging how this one went, I think this is going to be at least a 3-episode deal. And just important to remember that these figures walked with 2 legs and had 2 arms and spoke with 1 mouth, but they had extremely long lifespans, extremely advanced technologies and capabilities, and their names shifted over time. So from Ninurta to Heracles and Montu and Hercules and Nimrod of the Bible, but also Michael the Archangel. We're going to help keep it straight for y'all.
Let's touch on the Nimrod thing. So, you know, it says in the Bible that Nimrod is a son of Cush.
Okay.
So how would that tie into, because I believe the same thing as you do. I'm just trying to make a connection biblically. Was Cush was he like a part of this like these ancient bloodlines you see in the Old Testament? Were they a part of this royal bloodline in some way?
A lot of them were, but a lot of them were kind of infiltrated by pure-blooded Anunnakis. So like human women would be secretly slept with by full-blooded Anunnaki to create a half human, half god demigod. And maybe we save the answer to your Kush question for the next episode, but there's probably got to be some reinterpretation of the text where maybe Nimrod wasn't the son of Cush proper, but a product of the land, or the image of the area. And some of the things that do point to Nimrod, comparisons, like I'm not saying he 100% is Nimrod. I'm just saying Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and Ninurta, the champion of the gods, was renowned for slaying beasts and monsters on behalf of the divine order. And Nimrod's credited with founding Babel, Erech, Akkad. Ninurta is deeply connected with the establishment of these cities after chaos, particularly Lagash and Nippur. So Uruk is in Iraq. Lagash and Nippur are in Iraq. It's all the same area.
Right. Interesting.
There is some discrepancy, as Nimrod was more of a rebel against Yahweh and Ninurta was more loyal to Enlil. But that's some good homework for us.
Definitely, dude. Definitely. Uruk is where we built a base immediately after invading Iraq.
Let's go.
And that's something else, when you look at when we invaded Iraq, there was oil there for us to like bullshit. Whatever they told us, I just don't believe at all, to be honest with you. Oh, all right, look, so there is that video of like Gilgamesh's tomb and the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh found in like the Clinton emails, but I think there's something more there, like a star portal.
Yeah,
I definitely think there's the reason they told us we invaded is not the reason at all. It has something to do with these ancient entities. For sure. If anything, they're even like behind the invasion from the other side, right? Like we've talked about this before, how they're still running the show from behind the scenes. That'd be something to look into as well. Because we still, I mean, dude, in every region of the world, you had them worshipped as these different names, so it's all left up to interpretation, but definitely something going on behind all these wars. Gerald, thanks for coming by, brother. We have to wrap up as well.
I have an edit. I think now we're always going back and forth. I think Gilgamesh was Nimrod.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It's like the 12.
I wanted to get into that, but like because we've talked about how Gilgamesh is the son of Enki.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, we just have to, I guess, like dig a little further into that,
Unearth the secrets.
Homework, dude.
Yeah.
We just kind of keep in touch and we'll, if we figure anything out, just kind of let each other know. But I think you're right. Being the mighty hunter, but you can also tie Heracles and Hercules to Gilgamesh and Nimrod.
Yeah.
I just never really put it together with Ninurta because of like them being younger gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And him being like the oldest brother.
Yeah. Yeah, he should be slightly wrinkled by the by the times of the
there
flood.
we go back to avatar bodies and you know,
Yeah.
regeneration chambers and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
man.
So, Adrian, dude, thanks for coming and doing this morning, man.
Dude,
I know
you're
you have
so
a busy
welcome.
schedule right now, man. I know you have a busy schedule. So,
it's the busiest period. Hey, now it's the busiest period in my entire life, and I wouldn't have it any other way because I'm built for it. And
well, hell yeah, you are. You're that guy. Do you want to share anything about what's going on, or I know you keep it kind of hush hush, but is there anything you can?
Yeah, everything right now that I'm allowed to talk about is still related to book 2. As recently as today and yesterday, I'm in communication with the publisher. Things are moving forward. It's no longer speculation. I'm using the same publisher for book 2. We've done some concept art. There's a table of contents, and I'm editing it an entire extra round than I did book 1, because after the first experiment with book 1, there's a difference between writing a book that's best to be read and then writing a book that's best to be like listened to on Audible. So there's subtle differences. So I'm kind of cleaning it up. I'm actually getting way more critical with my research. Like that whole Wes Huff, Billy Carson debacle has really made me not scared to avoid confrontation or debate, but just be more critical with what's scientific, what's theoretical, what do I believe, what makes the most sense, and just being clear about those things. I think that'll be critical for book 2. And I was hoping summer, but look out, it might be a little closer to like a Halloween release.
That'd be cool, man.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah. But it's gonna be dope. It's all the stuff that we've been talking about: the arrival of Enki, the heroes, the creation of the Eden, those early civilizations, the early mining operations in Africa, and the creation of Adam and Eve.
Dude, yeah,
which is like 3 pages of Genesis all in one book.
Well, we're stoked to see what you have for us, man, and to be one of like the platforms that you're probably going to like initially share some of the stuff on. I couldn't be more excited, to be honest with you.
Hey, you're a part of the journey and a huge help to keep me sharp and working on this stuff as often as possible and communicating it to the masses.
We talked about this. You're a huge part of Greypilled. So, like this show means a lot to me. You mean a lot to me. You're a good friend. And so, it's always a privilege to have you here, brother.
Kick ass.
Oh yeah. Adrian, let everybody know where they can find you.
I am on Instagram at AdrianWestHQ. Have a website, AdrianWestHQ.com. Have 2 books on Amazon. The first one's about independent filmmaking. It's called Shoot for the Stars, The 5 Dimensions of Digital Filmmaking. And most recently, and more related to why we're here, is Pantheon 1, The Golden Veins, which talks about the prehistory of the universe and theoretical prehistory out there in space before the Anunnaki splashed down in the Fertile Crescent. It's done by me and my co-author. Shout out to Benson Saili.
Shout out Benson.
In Botswana, Africa. One of my OG mentors. And he was a pen pal with Sitchin before Sitchin passed away. So there are some connections to the OGs here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
that makes me very happy.
Yeah, man.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, that's where to find me. Hit me up on Instagram and places like that, or holler at Jules and Greypilled, and he'll tell you my exact coordinates.
Oh yeah, guys, go follow Adrian. Go buy his book. You know where to find me. Greypilled Pod on Twitter, Greypilled_podcast on Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Patreon.com/Greypilled Grey Pill Podcast, also greypilled.locals.com. I'm on Apple Podcast too and all those audio platforms. Oh yeah, go to paranoidamerican.com/discount/greypilled for 10% off. Toplobster.com to get some Already Dead merch. Look out for that every Tuesday live, 8:30 Central. And yeah, we'll see y'all later. Y'all stay Grey Pill, guys.
Come on down, and bring the magic staff, and I'll bring the sin. Nobody knows about the trouble we're in. Come on, let's make some Nephilim.
It's the Nephilim Portal Baby playset. Comes with a fallen angel, Nephilim baby, and portal to another dimension. One of the Paranoid American playsets. Collect them all at paranoidamerican.com.
Disclaimer: these are custom art creations and not toys meant for wimpy little new world order babies. Don't eat the art. Don't sue the artist. For more details, visit paranoidamerican.com.